Welcome to TinkerzLab, and this is going to be the second tutorial that I've produced on GIMP using the heal and clone tools. In the first tutorial that I published, we used the heal and clone tools to remove a severe blemish from our subject material. And that's what I typically use it for. But you can use it for other things too. We're going to use it for something different in this tutorial. So let's go ahead and if you haven't watched the first tutorial, take a look at the first tutorial because typically that's what you're going to use it, the heal and clone tools for. That's what I use it for most of the time, is to remove blemishes from my subject material. If there's a blemish in it, whether it's an object, whether it's a landscape, whether it's a human, an animal. And we'll do one more after this one. You can actually use it to remove images or objects from a background too, and it works very well for that. So we'll do a third tutorial with the heal and clone tools. And the heal and clone tools are kind of complementary tools. I rarely use one without using the other. Yeah, I would say 90% of the time I'm using both of them. So I've got GIMP open. Let's go ahead and open up the files that we want. And you can open up multiple files at the same time in GIMP. I don't know if you're aware of that, but I've got one image selected here. I'm going to hold down my shift key. I'm going to select the second one below it. So I've got both files highlighted here. I'll select open, and GIMP automatically opens all the images that I have selected for opening. So let's go ahead and maximize this. And let's maximize this. Okay, so here is the image that we're going to be starting with. And I took this image. I wanted to create a video thumbnail on YouTube using this image. But I didn't like the fact that, you can see the edge of the table, the gray table here. You can see the wall, the blinds in the background, part of a cabinet. You can see part of the Christmas tree there. And so I thought, it would look a lot better if it was just a solid gray background like the table. So if I could extend the table into the background, that would work great. And that's what I wanted to do. And this is the image that I ended up with by doing that. So don't you think that this image looks a lot better to use as a video thumbnail rather than this one here? Because the background kind of takes away from the subject material in the picture. So I think that this looks much, much better. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to go up and we're going to select, let me see if I've got my clone tool. I'm going to select my clone tool here. I am going to set my opacity at about 75%. And I'm going to make sure that I've got a fuzzy brush selected. And the reason that I'm doing that, and I'm going to make sure that I'm going to apply jitter to my strokes. So the reason that I'm doing that I'm making it almost 25% transparent, and I'm using a fuzzy brush, and I'm applying some jitter to my brush strokes. The reason that I'm doing that is so that the brush strokes are less visible when I've extended this plastic gray table background, and it will make it easier to blend everything in when we go back and use our heal tool. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and take our sample, and we do that by holding down our control key and left clicking it. Okay, so now that's my sample area. So now I'm going to bring my stroke over here for my my clone tool, and I want to remove that little indentation here, that stamp, that logo stamp. I want to remove that too. So now remember that when you create your brush strokes, your sample area moves. So what I do is I apply brush strokes, and then I release the left button, move my brush stroke again, and apply my brush strokes, and I do it in steps so that I'm sampling around the same area. And now that I've got that area done, I'm going to increase the size of my brush significantly. Okay, so I'm going to take a new sample here, and then I'm just kind of clicking so then I can extend this area here. And then once I get it large enough, I'll be able to move my brush strokes so that I'm not, my sample area will look the same. You know what I mean? Until I get my sample area here extended, I'm just, clicking and clicking and clicking. Okay, so now that I got my sample area extended, I can come up here and, whoops, do you see what happened there? I actually moved my sample area over the back side of the airframe here. So Control Z will undo that last step. You don't want to do that. Okay, so you can see with my brush strokes, they're about 25% transparent, and that is going to help. I did it again. That's going to help blend in all of this. Brush strokes. The brush strokes are not going to be very visible at all, which is going to make it so much easier, when we go in. I did it again. When we go in and I'm going to take a new sample over here. That works better. Okay, so that's going to make it much easier with our heal tool to blend everything in so it looks like a nice solid color. Pretty cool, huh? So we want to make sure that we get as close to our box here as possible, and then we're going to use a little trick. When I was a kid with a coloring book and my box of crayons, I was one of those kids that just could not stay within the lines. It always looked sloppy because I just could not stay within the lines. So we're going to help keep me inside the lines here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to select my path tool. And I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit so I can see the edge of the box a little bit better. Bring this up. So what I want to do is I want to get as close to the very top edge of this as possible, and you can tell because it'll go from the path tool to a cursor. So I'm going to select that right there, and then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to select right here at the bottom edge of the box, and then I'm just going to go all the way over here, and then I'm going to go back up over here at the very top edge there, and then I'm going to go join here. Okay, now I'm going to hit enter. After selecting my area, I'm going to zoom back out. Let's maximize that again. Okay, so what this is going to do is when I come back over here to my clone tool, it's going to keep me inside that area that I just selected. So I'm not going to be able to, go into the box. It's going to make it nice and crisp there. So I'm going to sample my area again, and then I'm going to go over here and look at that. Is that cool? It's keeping me within the lines. That is awesome. All right, so we have that area extended. All right, so now I'll make it a little bit easier. I'm going to do the same thing over here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select an area right now. Like when I was coming over here and I was accidentally getting into the back of the plane and I had to undo those steps. So, a very good solution is to come over here, get to the very top, come down here to the edge of our box, come back over here. Let's go right around tip of this transmitter here. We'll go all the way over here. We'll go back up here, and then we'll finish it off, after we get our selected area. I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so I've got that area selected now. So if I come back over here to my clone tool, and I need to make my brush a little, well, actually, let's just sample this area over here. We got this big, huge area over here to sample, so let's just grab that. We'll just save ourselves some time by grabbing that. And as you can see, it's forcing me to stay within the lines. Now you'll notice that it's a little bit lighter on that side than it is on this side, but we're going to blend it in. using the heal tool. So that's not going to be a problem. And we'll do some sampling with the clone tool on this side to blend it in a little bit before we even use our clone tool, our heal tool. Right now we just want to fill all this area in right here. How's that? Okay, now we're going to make our brush a little bit smaller, and we're going to deselect now that we've got all that area filled in, and we've got nice crisp lines next to our box. We're going to go to edit, and we're going to go to select. We're going to select and then select none. Okay, so now I'm gonna sample down here, and I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger. Yeah. Now I've still got it at 75%, right? Okay, so I'm going to leave that at 75%, and I'm going to slowly decrease the opacity here. And decrease the opacity again. And what this is going to do is it's going to help blend it all in. You know what I mean? A little less opacity every time. So if you're going from a darker area to a lighter area, that's going to help. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go grab our heal tool, all right? And we're going to sample, and then we're going to start blending in. And I'm going to increase my opacity here. I'm going to remove that mark there I did. I'm going to bring this over here. I'm going to start blending all this. Whoop, I did it again. I guess maybe I should have left it selected still. I'll select it there. And what I'm doing is I'm just blending all this in, guys. Now this isn't going to look as good as my other image that I showed you that I finished, because I'm doing this a lot faster. I'm sacrificing speed for quality here for this tutorial. But yeah, undo that. There we go. Oh, I did it again. See, I told you I couldn't stay within the lines. I should have left this area selected still. That would have been a better way to do it. Okay, so anyway, and I'm going to do a little bit of blending here. And we're about 62% opacity on our heal tool here. But doesn't that look good? Okay, yeah. All right, so now let's compare this with the first one that I showed you where I had already completed it. Okay, so there's that one. Here's this one. Not too bad for going through it so quickly. You know, I mean, with this one, so I knew I was going to be using this one for my final composition. So I took a little more time with my finished product here than I did during the tutorial. But it looks almost as good, doesn't it? And it didn't take any time at all to do that. And what we've done is we've completely extended that gray color, that gray texture of that plastic table to where our image looks so much better now than what we started with. Let's go ahead and open that. Let's open up the original image again so we can see it. Okay, so there's our original image. Here's our tutorial image. Here's my final product. I think, guys, that looks really, really good. So there you go. So there's our second tutorial on using the heal and the clone tool. So not only can you use it for removing blemishes from your subject material, whether it's an animal, an object, a human, whatever, you can use it to extend a fairly solid color background. I mean, if it has a random pattern to it, you'll be able to do that just fine. but having a more solid color, even if it's textured, that's fine. That Heal and Clone tool works great for doing this, even with a textured surface, as long as it's a very similar shaded surface. And you saw how well it worked in the tutorial. So stay tuned. I'll be doing at least one more tutorial using the Heal and the Clone tool. I'll show you how you can use that to remove an object from your background, which comes in really handy, especially when you're talking about a photo of a landscape, to remove like telephone poles and telephone wires or a water tank or whatever that really just ruins the photo. All right, so stay tuned for that. That's a wrap on this episode. Stay tuned, and I will see you in the next episode.